Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Let's Talk for a Minute. I'm John Foster, and today I have a guest that's going to help us learn about STEM education. My guest today is Jodi Goff.
Hi.
And Jodi, if you would, just kind of give everybody a little idea of what your background is.
Okay, well, I am a former educator. I was a teacher for many, many years. That's what I say now. And I was a science teacher as well as a technology teacher, and even did a little bit of art, which is interesting because people think that tech and science is opposite from art, but they're actually very much aligned with each other. So I did that for many years, and then I moved on to work for an educational technology company selling educational technology to teachers and going into districts and helping the implementation process so that the teachers could get the most effectiveness out of the technology that they are using and use the technology to align with their learning objectives. And then I became a Google certified trainer. I was actually one of the first, like 4 or 5 in Michigan. It was a very rigorous
I
process.
remember that.
Yeah, it was exciting. And then I moved on to provide Google training to districts, and I worked very closely with Google for Education to drive adoption of Google for apps for education, as well as went on various roadshows with them to sell the platform. And so then I moved on to now I work for Duell Corporation, which is a furniture dealer working to provide interior solutions to school districts. So it's kind of interesting and fun that I've really had my hands in every capacity of the learning environment for students.
Absolutely.
I love what I'm doing now in seeing how we can create engaging learning environments for kids.
That's great. That's great. Now, decades ago, when I was going through my educational process, I mean, to this day, I still remember my science teacher, my math teacher, the art teacher. I mean, these were all just normal classes. Not a lot of interplay between them or collaboration between them. Things have changed over the years, and now we've got this thing called STEM.
Right.
How exactly did that evolve, and what is that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's really not new. We've been talking about STEM forever: science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So what is with the explosion in the last, 5 to 10 years of STEM? And so it makes you think, well, how has STEM changed? And then we hear of project-based learning.
Right.
We hear of personalized learning.
Right.
So there are all of these new pedagogy and terms that are coming up. And the way that I look at it is they're all under this one umbrella of inquiry-based learning. And I'd say that's what the difference is. More of uncovering the curriculum instead of restating the curriculum. So when you were doing STEM,
well, I don't think we called it STEM, but yeah. Okay.
When you were learning, everything was isolated, right, in these compartments.
Exactly.
Yes, and now we're finding ways to integrate, and it's an interdisciplinary approach more so than isolated subject areas.
Right.
And so I would say that's one of the biggest changes, but it's the inquiry-based learning, like getting kids to start asking questions about the world around them and start making sense of things. And I have this little trash can thing I'm going to show you.
You brought props, all right.
Yes, so this shows my inquiry, actually, and how I have a scientific mind and why science is just my best friend.
Okay.
But I would come into school every day and the trash bag would be like this.
Okay.
And I just kept wondering why it was overflowing like that. Why do you think that might be?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So for many, many days, weeks, months, I would come in every day and push it down.
Okay.
Right? And fix it up.
Right.
And I just thought, I wonder why the custodian is leaving the trash bag out there like that. Well, so I started to ask people and investigate it, because that's what you do when you have a science mind.
Right.
Your first approach is just deal with it every day. I didn't really ask too much. It sparked a little bit of
Right,
curiosity,
right.
but I was like, okay, well, I have to move on. Solving the trash can
Right.
mystery.
I think I see a TV series coming.
Like, I don't know if I have the time for that. Well, here's what I discovered. Most of us actually put the trash can or the trash bag in the trash can backwards or inside out. So this is the outside of the trash
Okay.
bag that I'm just pushing down in here. And you
Okay.
can see, look at the difference. The seam is on this side. This is the inside of the trash bag.
Okay.
So what happens is you must have, turned it out. Actually, we should have looked to see what it looks like. But the trash bag, when you open your trash bag, it comes out like this, and you do this, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then you put your hand in it, and you do that.
Right.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Well, that's not what custodians do, because the trash bag goes like this. I have to get my skills going. I think I have to almost stand up for it.
Right.
So they do this, and they put it on like that. And then most of them do tuck it on the inside,
Okay.
or they try, but
Right.
they're in a hurry as well, right?
Sure.
So it gets left out like this. So it's just interesting that you pull the trash bag out and you put it in the wrong way
Right.
every day.
Right. I do. I do.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
I think. I would love to hear from our viewers
Yeah.
if
Exactly.
anybody actually puts the trash bag in the trash can the right way. But the point of that is that there are certain things that are all around that we don't really ask questions about.
Right.
We go through the motions every day and do certain things, but we don't pause to say,
True.
why? So we want to try to get kids to ask questions like, Mrs. Goff, why is the trash bag like that every day?
Right. Right. Now, I have a question. Did any of the kids notice that, or you took care of it before they got there?
I think I took care of it
Okay.
before they got there.
Okay.
And that was just me and my driving question for months until
Right.
I had to finally investigate it.
Okay. Now, you mentioned something earlier in your bio. You said that you taught art, and that most people think that art is distinctly different than the sciences,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really not. So STEM is actually science, technology, engineering, and math.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also now STEAM, if I'm
Yes.
correct, and they've actually put art in there as part of, or at least some
Mhm.
have. So it's
And then the
STEAM.
literacy folks wanted the R in there too for stream. That was short-lived. I'm sorry, reading teachers. It was short-lived.
Well, you can take it to the point where you're just describing the entire curriculum, but
And that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so when you say that, I think of STEM as more of an approach versus a curriculum. It's a way of teaching and learning. And art and science are very much aligned with each other, because you have this problem that you're trying to solve. An artist has in his mind something that he or she wants to develop at
Right.
the end. And they have these various tools and mediums that they can experiment with and utilize in order to fulfill their vision in what they're trying to do. And they have to manipulate them, and they have to test them out,
Right.
because it won't necessarily come out the way that they had expected it
Sure.
to. So they have to reflect and go back, and they have to ask questions and then go back and make some changes and try again. And so it's interesting, because the process of STEM or science and inquiry-based thinking and learning is very much like art. Now, when we put art into STEM, that one perplexes me just a little bit in regards to if you're really teaching art. So in art,
Good point.
you have all these different, you have art history, art appreciation, art, the methods
Right.
of art style. So is art really part of the approach, part of the curriculum, or is it a natural piece of an outcome that just naturally occurs through this process of inquiry-based thinking and creating? I don't know.
Yeah, when I think of art, I don't think of it in terms of what you just described, of the various pieces of art, the different paths you can take related to art. I initially think about in fact, you and I had talked about it a little earlier, and I don't want to get too deep into this because we're going to talk about it in another segment, but robotics and coding. In that environment, you try and envision something that you want to create, and those are your tools. Now, coding is your tools to create that and make it happen, and art's kind of like that. You have in your mind something that you want to create. You have different tools, but you have tools that now you want to bring that out on the canvas or whatever your medium is.
Right.
So there's a certain element I can see why people would say, yeah, let's put that there. It's a little different.
And integrated in, because when we think of STEM, we think of, like I say, inquiry-based learning, or at least
Right.
I think it's aligned with project-based learning. We also think of this interdisciplinary approach where we are leveraging the whole child and everything that the child, all of the strengths that they have in problem solving, in approaching a task. And we're trying to weave this in to let them know that there's not necessarily one straight path to your answer.
Right.
That you might have to leverage various ways of thinking, various tools, and it's just not nice and cut and dry.
Right. Well, I think you described it earlier, again, in conversations we've had, where it's no longer linear. It's pretty much a cyclical thing, and
Right.
there's a lot of different opportunities to explore, getting to your answer.
Yes.
So,
And so I think a good start for school districts, which most school districts have already started, so it's not, but a revisiting of what inquiry-based learning is. What does that cycle of inquiry look like? The asking questions, reflecting, experimenting, going back, because that's the approach that we're taking, I think, when we ask, what is STEM?
right.
How has it changed? So to me, it's an approach to instruction. It's an instructional approach more so than it is an actual curriculum.
Right. Great. For our viewers, this is going to be a multi-part engagement. Jodi's going to come back a couple of times, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. The next session is going to be how we actually implement STEM and how is it taught and those types of things. And I think one of the things that we'll at least touch on is how does that work in today's environment where a lot of kids are remote learners. How is STEM learning impacted by that? And I'm going to make Jodi promise to bring a prop for the next episode.
Yes,
And,
I have props.
So if you have enjoyed the conversation and would like to leave a comment, please do so. Also, please subscribe to the channel. That obviously helps us to learn that we're doing something that people are finding value in. And we'll look forward to seeing you
For the next episode on what does STEM look like.
Exactly. Thank you. I'm John Foster,
Jodi Goff.
and have a great day.
Thank you.